So the month of Elul is called the month of accounting. Our sages teach us that it's printed in Hayom Yom that a good business person has to stop and take inventory. If you don't take inventory, you don't know where the money is going. You don't know what's selling, what's not selling, what's turning a good profit, what's not turning a good profit. You can't make a business. So every good businessman has to make an accounting. And the way it's described in Kabbalah is that every single night before you go to bed, you make a mini one. Thursday night before Shabbat, you make a little bigger one. Erev Rosh Chodesh, the day before Rosh Chodesh, is a fast day for many. It's called Yom Kippur Cotton. That's already a bigger one. And then there's the annual one, which is supposed to be the month of Elul. Now, what happens is... Shalom, shalom.
Parked right behind you. Is that okay?
Perfect. Yeah.
I can't afford good
Come, guys. So, No. Welcome back, guys. The chicken is out there. The chicken is out there.
How are you?
You good?
How are you?
How's it doing? So, the chicken's out there. Whenever you guys are ready, you can just take care of whatever you have to take. So, what happens is that the month of Elul is the month of accounting. Now, I'm going to just present this to you. What is the accounting? Most people, they look at you pull over one of these chairs. One of the ways we look at teshuva. Many people look at it always as a sad. It's a teshuva. You have to be serious and so forth and so on. And there is a place for that. Don't get me wrong. However, I think that we look at this the wrong way. We misunderstand what the teshuva of Elul is really all about, the way I see it. So, my mother and father worked extremely hard and extremely long hours. My mother had a double job. My mother worked in the hospital and my Maimonides hospital. And that left me growing up with a lot of television. And it's funny that certain things just, don't ask me how I remember them, but there are certain scenes that I see them in front of my eyes. I have more of a video memory than an audio or a reading. And later on in life, I realized that every single one of these scenes that out of nowhere hit me is something that I have to know a message from. So I'm going to share with you a scene from a movie. Don't ask me the name. Don't ask me if it's a show or not. I'm just telling you what stuck in my young mind. So this was undercover narcotic cops. So they have to belong to the gang, and they don't get trusted. So, hey, why don't you try it? So they have needles in their arms, and then they're doing drugs. But then there comes a time where their heads tell them, we're reeling it in. We're reeling it in. The fish is on the hook, we're reeling it in. A little problem. Because if these officers show up in court with dark glasses and red eyes and holes, it doesn't work. So now you literally see them going through withdrawal symptoms because they got to clean their act up. I remember it was so far that because they had to really show up quickly, they actually used a hot iron on their skin to burn off the holes. And then they show up in court all sober and like this, and that's when they start ratting out on all the gang, and they bring down the gang. That stuck to me. Why did that stick to me? So now I'm going to tell you there are different mystical teachings on why we do the shofar. The Baal Shem Tov has the following parable. The Baal Shem Tov talks about how the king had a prince, and he sent his prince abroad, get to know the subjects. And the prince ended up, a spoiled brat, and he ended up, instead of serving his father, he ended up forgetting everything about where he came from, and he lost everything. The Baal Shem Tov says that it got so bad that he even forgot the language of the capital. That's how sunken he got into where he was. And then it comes the time to come back to the king, and when he comes back, no one recognizes him. And as far as everyone knew, we lost the king's son. And he was saying, I'm the prince. And he became the laughingstock. And he didn't know what to do. I'm sure if I get to my father and mother, they'll recognize me. But until he comes up with a plan. This is Baal Shem Tov's teaching. The plan is that he knows where the palace bedroom is. He's going to stand outside the palace as far as he can get, next to that window. And he realized, I can't call them because I don't even know how to say father and mother no more in my mother tongue. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to scream because my voice never changed. So he was relying on that his parents would hear the voice. And one second, I know that voice. So that's why the Baal Shem Tov says, the shofar is not a prayer. There's no intellectual words. It is just the outcry of the purity of the heart. And that, the king, capital K, the father, will recognize. And then we'll get back together. Now, what I'm doing here is, I'm putting these two stories together. The undercover cops became drug addicts by no choice of their own. Hello, how are you? By no choice of their own. Right? They were sent on a mission, and as part of their mission, they had to get fablunget. Take over here, you have chairs. They had to become fablunget, lost. And then you have the king's son, who was sent out to the subjects, and he too became fablunget. Now, the narcotics undercovers, they have to, whatever they have to do to sober up and then to look representable and be trustworthy. And the prince has to somewhere find the piece of prince that never changed. I'm lining those two things up. And the reason I'm lining those two things up is because I want to present Elul as that moment. I want to present Elul. I'm sorry? Whatever you want, sure. I want to present Elul exactly like that. We were sent on a mission. The mission was to go deep undercover. And now we're being called back. I want to tell you one more story. The fourth Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Rebbe Marash, had a chassid, a very wealthy chassid, Gerari. And he was a businessman. And in the city of Lubavitch, which is right next to Smolensk, there he dressed like a chassid. But when he went to Leningrad to do business, he dressed like a businessman, with the vest and the gold clock and the one little, everything you see. And then what happens is that when he comes, hey, how are you, Jason? So then what happens is that he starts feeling, I gotta be kidding. What, I'm fooling my Rebbe? In Leningrad, I dressed like a businessman. Here, I dressed like a chassid. How would I fool my spiritual master? So he decided he has no choice. He's going to dress in Lubavitch the way he dresses in Leningrad. And that's what he did.
So
he dressed like a businessman in Leningrad. The way he dressed in Leningrad, like a businessman, he dressed in Lubavitch. He comes to the Rebbe Marash, And the Rebbe gives him just a look up and down, and he burst out crying. And he says, Rebbe, I never meant to fool you. God forbid. You're the one person I'm honest with. This is the way I dress when I go to Leningrad. The Rebbe Marash said, you think I didn't know how you dressed when you went to Leningrad? I thought you were fooling them. You're telling me that you were fooling me? I was sitting I was davening Shachris, and there was someone there that who was talking to me in Divrei Torah. We were talking about different things. He asked me a question, and then I told him, I said, do you know what the hardest thing in life is? The hardest thing in life is that every single one of us is a hypocrite. We're always a hypocrite. Right. One side of us is so beautiful, so pure, so holy, and one side of us is, it's all about the dollar, Good
and evil.
Now the question is, I don't even want to call it good and evil, because evil is such a harsh word. I want to call it selfish.
Okay.
That's all.
Yourself.
And it all comes from the greatest instinct which God gave us. God said, let there be. And that's a mandate. So survival is a mandate. But survival bleeds selfishness. And then it goes too far. So what happens is, if you're dealing with the two sides of you, I told him, the biggest challenge in life is to remember who is you. It's funny how people will tell you, oh yeah, you're the one that's learning Torah. You think I don't know what you do? So what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to stop learning Torah because you do the other thing? Or is hypocrisy? I never saw someone say, I can't do no more Lashon Hara because it's hypocrisy to me going to shul on Shabbat. For some reason, no one ever says that. What they do say is, no, I don't go to shul on Shabbat. How can I go to shul on Shabbat? I don't keep kosher. Why didn't you just say, hey, I can't not keep kosher. I go to shul on Shabbat. It never works that way. For some reason, the human being is dealing with such shame and guilt that I identify myself as Mr. Hyde. Dr. Jekyll is an imposter that I sometimes behave like. And there's a name for it. It's called the imposter syndrome. We believe that we don't deserve and we're not really who, because we see ourselves as our lower self, not our higher self. I think that's what the Rebbe Marash was telling this person. The Rebbe Marash was telling him, have you forgotten who you're fooling? Have you forgotten who you really are? I know you have to go to Leningrad. And I know you have to put up a show as if you're a whole businessman and you're not really a walking, talking Jew who davens and learns Torah and does mitzvahs and keeps kosher. I get that. But station identification. If you're going to have to pick who you're going to stop fooling, then be your true self. This is not you. The Rebbe Manash is telling him, I know you, I know your father, I know your grandfather, I know. This is not you. You've forgotten who you're fooling. Let's take it back. There comes a point, and many movies have this theme, where the cop turns bad because he's just sick and tired. These guys have a budget and they're winning the game. And we're living like dogs. We have to come with with Motel 6, and we have to answer for everything and bring a receipt. Why, if we're anyway in this game, let's just change sides and let's live a good life. Let's become a drug lord instead of a narcotic cop. That's what goes on. We forget who we are. But why do we forget who we are? It's because we were sent into that world. And because we were sent into that world, we sometimes, to quote Rocky's Eye of the Tiger, we've forgotten what we started fighting for.
But
And just one second. The same thing with the Baal Shem Tov. The king sent his son knowing that I need you to understand your subjects. And understanding your subjects means every single district. And part of the districts that's your subjects is a red district. And it's a drug district. And it's the crime district. I need you to understand every one of your subjects if you want to have any hope to get through to them. If you want to be their king and do what a real king is supposed to do, which is not just make rules, but elevate, then I need you to understand them. But the problem is that when we start understanding them too well, the line becomes foggy. What I'm presenting the month of Elul is that a whole year we were undercover. When the verse says, 6 days a week you shall work and 7th day you shall rest, you know that there's 2 mitzvahs there. Our sages tell us that 6 days a week you shall work is a mitzvah. Not just on Shabbos you shall rest is a mitzvah. They're both God's commandments. And why does God tell us 6 days a week you shall work? Because there's a world out there that's meant to be my garden and it's turned into a jungle. So I need you guys out there. Shabbos is like the mini, like when you're swimming and then you pick up your head to see where. That's like the mini moment, and then you go back to swimming. The month of Elul is, guys, come back home. Report. Bring me back what you conquered from the jungle. And all of a sudden we realize, whoa. We got holes in our arms. Our pupils are dilated. And we're going through withdrawal symptoms. So if you want to know what I think the month of Elul truly is, I think the month of Elul is, I should be quoting holy books, but I quote mostly movies. You guys watch Spider-Man and the Venom costume? You remember the problem with the venom? When it covers you, you lose yourself. And it takes everything you have to rip that off. Because it's so enticing, it's so powerful, it's so my language. But I need to rip it off because it's not who I can become. So, Fiddler on the Roof is the biggest challenge of Judaism. Why is it the biggest challenge of Judaism? Because if you told us live like Buddhists, that's okay. We're going to have to just once and for all accept that we're meant to be minimalists. Get it over with, and that's it. Let's move to Japan, go on to the monasteries, and let's just... Tell us that our job is to become the best lawyers, the best doctors, and then just provide the world with the top of the line stuff. Perfect. Let's put the spirituality costume in the closet and let's get into it. But no. You're telling me to do both. You're telling me as a mandate you must become successful. I mean simply financially successful. If you want to be able to keep Torah mitzvot, you've got to be successful. Kosher is 4 times the price. Living in a Jewish community is 5 times the price. Jewish education is 100 times the price. And I can go on and on and on and on. There is no, you cannot just say, I'll be a minimalist. It's okay. It just won't work. And then on the other hand, don't lose yourself. Never become the businessman. Always remain the Jew who belongs to God. Again, if we're not talking about Jews, we're talking about whatever it is. In Allah, whatever it is. Remember who you really are. The month of Elul, if you do it right, it is a very difficult month. So I want to share with you one of the afterlife cleansing process. So everyone talks about hell, purgatory, right? Jews, do we believe in purgatory? Yeah, we believe in hell. We actually believe in 2 hells. We believe in a hell of fire and a hell of snow. The hell of fire is to burn out the forbidden passion. The hell of snow is to freeze out the forbidden apathy. No, I just don't care about this. Shul, Shabbos. That you have to burn both out. So we have two hells, not one. But what most people don't know is getting to hell is a journey in itself. Because before we go to purgatory, and I'm not here to make it sound like, oh, that's it, that's who we're ending up in purgatory. There's a whole process here. But there's two things mentioned in the holy books pre. One is called chibut hakever. What it literally means is that the angels stand and bang on your coffin. There's another thing which is called kaf hakela. You know what kaf hakela is? It's the word used for a slingshot. And the slingshot of back and forth. Now let me share with you what this really means so that we can understand how we go through this before we die, and then we don't have to deal with it after we die. And I'm going to present to you, that's exactly what the month of Elul is all about. Chibud HaKeva means that when you do a spring cleaning, you take your blankets and you take your rugs, and what do? You hit it. Why are you hitting it? Because dust gathered, and you have to bang out the dust. Chibud HaKeva is to remove the dust of the egocentrism of human life. Kaf hakela, where are you swinging to? Min hakotze el hakotze, from one end to the other end. What ends? Do you know what kaf hakela is? Kaf hakela is that we allow you to remain in your physical perception of what's important is fame, glory, love, passion, wealth. And then we pull you out of there and we fling you into the Garden of Eden, where all of a sudden you see that everything you thought is so necessary is actually mud. And all of a sudden you see true definition of goodness, inner peace, selflessness, oneness. And the reason why we sling you back and forth is exactly what happens when Spider-Man has to pull off the Venom costume and it's hurting. What's it hurting for? What's hurting for is, do you know why we cover mirrors? We cover mirrors in a Shiva house because the soul is completely lost. For 70, 80 to 120 years, it looked in the mirror and it saw this. And all of a sudden, what happens? All of a sudden, he dies, and the person got out of the leased vehicle. The leased vehicle was returned into the ground. Well, what do you mean? Who am I if not my Tesla? Who am I if not my... So seeing the mirror, and it sees that I'm not. Who am I? Thus we cover the mirrors. That's one of the reasons we cover the mirrors in a Shiva house. You understand that that's what we're going through in Elul? That's what this whole kaf hakela is. The whole process of 1 second. 11 months, I was doing so well. Business is growing. People are respecting me. The house is a bigger house, a nicer car, trips. What do you mean you're calling me back in? The Rebbe once said by Fabrengen, we're talking about wanting Mashiach, and the person is sitting here thinking, now? I'm making it. I finally got a waterfront house. Now Mashiach. Mashiach I needed 10 years ago. Now you want me to leave this and go to Israel? For what? That's the month of Elul. Elul is a mini of that. I finally learned the language. I finally learned how to play social media. I finally learned how to manipulate people in meetings so I can get the negotiations done. And now you're telling me come back? I'm full of needle holes. I'm living off this adrenaline drug of this world you put me into. Have we forgotten why he put us into this? Has the prince forgotten what his father, the king, gave him the mission? This is what we're supposed to be doing in different levels. We're supposed to be doing it every night before we go to bed, because once again, we're sending our soul back home. And when the soul goes up there to report, it really doesn't want to hear how you finagled this guy into a contract and into a this, and I just closed a deal. I was whining and dining this guy for so long. That's not exactly what the soul wants to be writing up there. So every night before we go to bed, we have a Shema Yisrael moment. God, you know and I know that I've got to make a lot of money, but I haven't forgotten who and what and where and why. I still remember who I am and why I'm doing this and what I'm doing with it. Every night before we go to bed. Hear, O Israel, God is a God, God is one. And you know what you're supposed to do when you say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad? The Gemara, not Chassidus, not Kabbalah, simple Gemara. Echad. You have to be Maidach. You don't just say Echad. Echad. So the question Gemara asks is, how long do you have to stretch this out? You know, leave it up to a good nudnik in shul, and then no, you know, the people that make you wait for them for Shemon Esrei as if they're holy people. Well, we won't go there right now. It's the month of Elul. But how long do you have to do it? You want to hear the Gemara's answer? Until you reach a point where you'll sacrifice yourself for God. Wow. Okay. There goes a week or two. How are you supposed to reach there? I'll tell you exactly what it means. What it means is, let's make it simple. What it means is that if push comes to shove and I have to forego, let's make it real here, okay? The business deal that you were working on for so long, he finally gave you an opening. Friday at 5:30 p.m. be in my office. Whoa, tzaddik. There's no way I'm going to make it back in time for Shabbos. That's the echad. Something's going to have to go now. A Jew knows which one got to go. But it's interesting how every single one of us has a different level of what's got to go. Because we're going to try to keep this together as long as we can. Yeah, okay. I'm going to meet in a non-kosher restaurant, but it doesn't make a difference because I won't eat. But 1 second, are you allowed to be in a non-kosher restaurant? Are you going to take off your yarmulke all of a sudden right now? And if you don't take off your yarmulke, what are you giving to other people a message? Everyone has their own line. And I'm not telling you have to be on top of the line. We're all in a journey. But we all have to know that we each have a line that at this point, I'm going to just say, this business deal is not for me. I'm going to walk on it. This relationship is not for me. I'm going to walk on it. This vacation is not for me. I'm going to walk on it. That's what it really is all about. That is the kafakela that we do to ourselves. That's what we're going through. So every night you have a moment of station identification. Echad. I got to remember who I am. There are certain lines I don't cross, even if it's the deal of a century. Then there's the Shabbos. Shabbos is a different ballpark now. Shabbos, you're not just going to sleep for 8 hours. You're walking away from everything for 26 hours. Then comes the end of the month, Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh is a new moon. We are compared to the moon. If there's a new moon, there's got to be a new me. So where am I going this month? And then there's the month of Elul. Then there's the month of Elul. And simply speaking, there's a beautiful metaphor given. The king notified one of his army bases that I'm going to be coming to this army base. So the whole army base is in upheaval. We got to make sure everything is clean. Got to make sure everyone is back, at their best behavior. Buttons polished, boots polished, da-da-da-da-da, right? So the Rebbe has in one talk, he says like this. People, we were just given a 30-day notice. We're going to be face-to-face with the king. That's exactly what Rosh Chodesh Elul is, right? Sephardim are doing Slichas a whole month. We're doing Shofar. We do the extra 3 chapters of Tehillim. We do Slichas this year, actually. It's 2 Shabbatot before, because you can't have less than 3 Slichot. But be it as it may, you get what's going on here. Literally, we all just received a message. We're being summoned. We're not being summoned like, oh my God, what did I do? No, not what I did. This was the plan all along. I was undercover for 11 months. I'm being called back in. But guess what? I totally changed. My perception changed. What I think is important changed. What I think is pleasurable changed. I had to change. How was I supposed to have any success on any level if I would have come with my Gemara into the business meeting? And then that guy's talking to me about money, and I'm talking to him in Yiddish. Yeah, but I've learned him, I've davening. It's not going to work. The mandate was for me to dress up for Leningrad. And now the month of Elul comes. So this month, our focus is literally play the song The Eye of the Tiger in your car and hear those words. Have we forgotten what we started fighting for? Do we still have that vision? You see? Let's not lie to ourselves. And with this I'm going to finish and then chicken time. When we were younger, I'm saying we. When we were younger, we had dreams. And our dreams wasn't to be Moses on the mountain. Right? For me, it was to have a huge, beautiful 770 Chabad house filled with shiurim and a kids program and a this program, but it was a big building with a beautiful parking lot, state-of-the-art mikveh, a library, the envy of all libraries. But it was a Chabad house. Each and every one of us sitting around the table here, we had visions. A beautiful 3-car garage overlooking the intracoastal, not God forbid the fingers, but at the intracoastal mamish. But guess what? When we were kids, that vision had a kosher kitchen, a mezuzah, a Shabbos table, kids singing at the table, guests coming by. So don't get us wrong. When we were kids, we had physical wealth, dreams. But somehow they weren't a contradiction to my spirituality. It was a glove made for a hand. Somehow, part of that dream got a little dim. And the other part of that dream became really painfully real. It hurts that we don't have that. What happened? What happened to my part of the dream that I was going to be rich enough and not have to worry about fundraising, that in the morning I could sit and learn with myself? Why doesn't that hurt? Oh, it does hurt that I lost my house in my divorce and I'm living in an apartment, and that hurts. I don't have a shul. I can go on and on with what hurts. But does it hurt as much the other part of the dream? A beautiful Shabbos table that sat 20 people. The month of Elul is to remember. Go back to when you were a child. When you were a child, your physical dreams was a perfect glove on a spiritual hand. And somehow we ended up with the glove and without the hand that is so palatable, real by us. And now we're getting a notice. 30 days, you're going to be face to face with your king. The one who sent your soul down into this difficult world and was very clear, and you took an oath before you went on this mission. So this isn't about, oh my God, I'm so sorry. No. It's about shower up. Get through the withdrawals and remember who you are. So that when you stand in front of Hashem on Rosh Hashanah and you're saying, Avinu Malkeinu, give us a parnasah. Say it like you did when you were a kid. Give me a Jewish parnasah that I should be able to study Torah, spend time with my kids, and I should have a beautiful home, a Shabbos home, and a kosher kitchen with 3 sinks, and then a sukkah with a retractable roof, and then a Pesach kitchen. Go back to that dream. That's what we're asking. We're not asking you to now, no, it's all garbage, minimalist. No. Go back to the original Jewish childhood dream you had of Jewish wealth, where I didn't have to give up one for the other, where I didn't have to, learn the latest dance moves so that I can be cool with the guy, so he should think that, oh, this is a guy I want to do business with. What were we proud of as kids? We were proud of what we believed in. As kids, we knew that if a person did business with a Jew because he trusted him, because once upon a time, a Jew's word in Russia, who do you think everyone trusted? With counterfeit and everything. They only trusted the Jewish people because they knew, as a matter of religious fact, snitching was out of the question. End the story. You die. Doesn't make a difference if you're dying for a Jew, for a Gentile. Snitching is out of the... And they knew it and we knew it. And we didn't forget that. Somehow we forgot these things in the last 11 months. So the month of Elul is simply a self-imposed chibut hakeva, get the dust off, kaf hakela, identify yourself, so that you can come back home. And when you do daven on Rosh Hashanah for wealth, it's going to be like that beautiful child that was going to a Jewish school that remembered exactly what he wants. Wealth and Judaism as one. That's it. Shana Tova. People, you have the chicken. You'll make sure, Sam, that I'm not poisoning anyone.
Do you have a doctor here?
No, but
let me just tell you, as a good Jewish lawyer, I had to choose between, as a good Jew, I had to choose between a doctor and a lawyer to have here. So I picked a lawyer.
Bad choice.
I think so. That was a grab.
Pulling you after hours.
By the way, for all jokes aside, we have a very good doctor here.
So you said